Thank you for inviting me to share this special day with you all. I'm so honored to be here and so excited to congratulate Hadley as the class of 2020 on this amazing accomplishment. It takes a lot of courage to be a pioneer, to forge your own path, and to go boldly in the direction of your dreams. Hadley, you did it with a beautiful heart and an open mind, and your willingness to learn and positive attitude will take you so far in life. I'd like to take this time to share a few stories with some lessons I've learned along the way that I hope will inspire you as you continue on your journey. The first lesson I've learned is the importance of knowing our legacies, because in many ways, understanding our past drives our future. My family's legacy began in the Far East in a country called Burma. My dad came from a long line of Burmese warrior kings, and my mom's family were the aristocrats and members of the House of Lords. My parents lived like Burmese royalty in a glorious and glamorous world until the day the military dictator took over and took everyone's freedom away. My brother and I had been born during this time, so my parents made the difficult decision to leave their family and the life that they knew and to start over in the U.S. They had to sign papers stating that they were traitors, and the government only allowed them to leave with $20 and one small suitcase. As I watched my parents struggle to make ends meet during our first years in the U.S., I witnessed the unwavering strength of the human spirit as they were not able to only survive, but to thrive against all odds. So how does knowing our legacy drive our actions? How does it shape our stories? My parents sacrificed everything so that my brother and I could grow up in a free country. So for me, knowing my legacy gave me a purpose and a call to action, to never take the freedom we have for granted and to appreciate each and every opportunity that I've been given. The second lesson I've learned is that no experience is ever wasted. I believe that there are several paths that lead us to our final destination, and that every experience we have is meant to help us through the next one. So the first startup I launched is called Sushi Style, and for this company, I designed and manufactured pillows and ottomans that look like sushi rolls. Now, this was during the time when the food pillows were just becoming popular, so my products took off like crazy. I was really excited because this was my first business venture, and everything seemed so easy. But then, about a year into it, my sales started to plummet, and I realized that other manufacturers had copied my designs and my ideas. And the worst part of it was that they were larger companies, so they were able to cut the manufacturing costs in half and sell the products at a much lower price than what I could sell them for. I didn't know how this had happened because I did everything I knew to do to protect my intellectual property. I had 7 patents, over 15 copyrights, I had trademark protection, but it did happen, and there was nothing I could do to stop it. This was definitely a low point in my career. All the doors that had opened now started closing, and the retailers weren't as interested in carrying my products as they were before. I had put all my savings and time and energy into creating this company, and it had crashed along with my dreams. So what happens when we hit rock bottom? Do we give up, or do we keep moving forward? Well, I had a pity party for a few days, and then I realized that I could invent something new. And so I did. I invented a new type of travel pillows for kids, and because I had the previous experience of learning how to build a company, my new company was more profitable in its first quarter than my other company had been in its entirety. The most valuable lesson I learned from all of this is that failure and rejection are an inevitable part of life, but being defeated and staying defeated is a choice. Now, this doesn't just apply to business. I think it applies to every part of life, whether it's a job you didn't get or a relationship that didn't work out. If we can find the good in each experience and see how it has helped us to learn and grow, then we can move forward with a free and open heart. The third lesson I've learned is that every experience, whether good or bad, is just one moment in time. Sometimes we get stuck in anxious moments, or sad moments, or even embarrassing moments that seem like they'll never end. But in reality, it's just one small sliver of time in the whole course of our lives. A few years ago, I was invited to meet the Earl Spencer, who is Princess Diana's brother. And as I was walking up to greet him, I realized that I hadn't been briefed on the protocol. So I didn't know whether to bow, curtsy, or shake his hand. So in an incredibly awkward and embarrassing moment, I managed to do all three at the same time as I was greeting him. Now, this ballroom was filled with dignitaries and socialites, and when I did that, there was a hush over the room, and no one said a word for what seemed like ages. But then the Earl started laughing, and he put out his hand and shook mine, and all was right in the world. So if you happen to embarrass yourself on a local level or even on an international level, just know that it's only one small moment in time, and you will recover from it. And if you have a goofy and awkward personality, just own it and be proud of it, because people will love you for it. The fourth lesson I've learned is about empathy. The ability to feel empathy towards others is so important, because when we are able to see the world through someone else's eyes, it will have a lasting impact on us, and it will guide our actions. In the year between college and grad school, I moved down to Miami Beach to work at an art gallery. Now, the first month I was there, my apartment caught on fire, and most of my things were destroyed, but there are a few things that I could salvage. Now, I didn't have my car with me because South Beach is a walkable area, so when I had to transport my things from the old apartment to the new apartment, I went to the local grocery store and asked if I could borrow a shopping cart. So I loaded up the cart with my things, and they were all charred and covered in soot, and I was covered in soot, and I was pushing the cart down the street to get to the new apartment. And at first, I didn't think anything of it, but then I looked around, and I saw that people were avoiding my path, and no one was making eye contact with me. And then, when people started throwing change in my cart, I realized what they saw, and it was a life-changing moment for me. Because when we can truly understand what it's like to be in someone's shoes and feel what they feel, not only does it change our perspective, but it changes the way we live, and it directly affects the way that we serve others. Now, the last lesson I'd like to talk about today is about being fearless. We all fear different things and in different ways. If you were to ask me to rappel down the face of a steep waterfall, I would jump off the edge without even thinking twice about it. But then again, if you were to ask me to give a graduation speech that's thoughtful and meaningful and inspirational, well then, that would be absolutely terrifying. But that's okay, because we all experience different types of fears. Now, being fearless doesn't mean that we don't feel the anxiety and the butterflies. It means that we feel all those things, but we do it anyway, because we'd rather take the chance than never know what would have happened if we had. And most times when we are able to push through that fear and get to the other side, we realize that the thing that we were afraid of wasn't so bad after all. So how do we face those fears? For some, it's by being confident and in knowing who you are. For others, it's a family member or a close friend who's cheering you on and encouraging you. For me, personally, I'm able to push through those fears by relying on my faith, because I believe that God has the perfect plan and purpose for my life, and He will help me through every challenge that I face. I'd like to close with one of my favorite stories from my parents' time in Burma. After my dad finished medical school, he was assigned to work in a remote jungle village with no running water and no electricity, and he was the only doctor for 100,000 people. He and my mom had just gotten married, so she went with him, and they lived in a little one-bedroom hut that had a door on one side and a window next to the bed. So sometimes at night, if my dad had to run to the restroom, he would just jump out the window to go to the outhouse. So one night, as my dad was jumping out the window, a 6-foot cobra came up and started hissing at him, ready to attack. Now, just to put this into perspective, the venom from a Burmese cobra can kill a human in 15 minutes. So my dad asked my mom to hand him the golf club, which was the only weapon they had in the hut. And he took it and swung it and took the head right off the cobra. So my dad is a really chill and laid-back person, and true to form, he handed the golf club back to my mom, went to the outhouse, went back to bed, completely unfazed by the whole thing. I think this is such a perfect example of how we can respond to fear. By facing our challenges head on, by slaying the cobras in our path, and by continuing to move forward with a free and resilient heart that's unaffected by the circumstances that surround us. Thank you again for allowing me to be here with you all today. And to Hadley and the students, I wish you all so much happiness and success as you move forward and become the next world changers. Thank you.